Hello and welcome back to the Pitch Side podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast and all the content on the channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram. Listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcast or any other platform. And of course, join us for more. You are welcome to episode 151 of the podcast. Midweek action in Europe, of course, to talk about as the leagues come into a close relegation battle. The top four spots and title contenders are going to be decided in the next couple of weeks as we reach the climax of the season and start from the Premier League, where almost everything of those three is decided. I mean, aside from the top four, the champions, we know them. The relegators, we officially know them after Fulham lost to Burnley yesterday 2-0. In Craven Cottage, of course, officially relegated alongside West Brom after their loss against Arsenal, and Sheffield United, of course, who have been pretty much sure of relegation since like 10 weeks ago or 2 months ago, pretty much. Round 36 kicks off today. Is going to be played over the course of the week, certainly, with Leicester City and Chelsea being the being played early on, since they have the commitments in the FA Cup final on in the weekend. Manchester City versus Leicester City, Chelsea versus Arsenal, that is tomorrow on Wednesday. Newcastle United versus Man City on Friday. Burnley Leeds United, Southampton Fulham, Brighton versus Brighton of Albion West Ham United on a Saturday. On Sunday, Crystal Palace versus Aston Villa, Tottenham Wolverhampton, West Brom Albion versus Liverpool, Everton and versus Sheffield United. You really look at those games and you only see Man United versus Leicester City really as the biggest of those. Man United, of course, they have some serious congestion fixtures to really deal with. They play against Liverpool on a Thursday, the game in hand that they normally should have played last week. Of course, you look at their Europa League final coming up in the next couple of weeks, and you ask yourself the question: are they fit enough to rotate the squad and to get results of all of those games? Of course, Leicester City need this victory. I think in this one the game is more important, I think, to them. If they don't win it, they lose that top four spot. Pretty much they lose a third position to Chelsea potentially, who play Arsenal, and of course with the momentum carried on with Chelsea in that London derby against Arsenal from the semi-final, the Champions League final qualification, all of that. It will be pretty interesting to see how Chelsea and Leicester will play both those games. Of course, we'll get to the rest of the games in the weekend, but certainly this game carries a big momentum, really. Manchester United versus Leicester City. Again, the problem with United is fitness. The turnaround is pretty short with a couple of games that they had. Of course, 4 games in 8 days is quite a tough situation to take for Manchester United, a tough pill to swallow. Chelsea versus Arsenal, with the momentum again generated with the victories for Chelsea, the victory against City, albeit a second-tier City, to be fair. But still, they will take on Arsenal, who are really desperate at the moment. They're really languishing in the middle of the table. No European football is going to be played for them next season. No chance for a top 4 or a top 6. And they don't really have too much momentum to talk about. The future of Arteta is under serious scrutiny and under serious doubt after the results that they had as of late. And it looks as Arsenal are really reaching a bad point in their career at the moment, where for the first time in 25 years they are not going to be playing European football of any sort. Of course, on the weekend, it's going to be Newcastle United versus Man City. Hopefully for them, they seal the title by then, and they want to get focused on the Champions League final by then, of course. Man City, they certainly want to celebrate a little bit before getting ahead and focusing on the biggest game of the season, maybe of their career, really, considering that this is the first Champions League final they get. Of course, Burnley, Leeds United on Saturday, Southampton at Fulham, Brighton versus West Ham. West Ham are going to be looking to keep their top 4 spots hopes alive after the couple of results they've been having as of late. It hasn't been exactly their best form in the last couple of weeks. They have been losing some serious steam and some serious points. 3 losses out of the last 4 league matches. Of course, this is not a good form for a side that wants to be in the Premier League battle. Understandably, maybe losing against Chelsea, but against Burnley and against Newcastle United in particular, maybe against Everton as well, it's pretty understandable. But the losses against, the losses against Newcastle United is pretty terrible. Form for West Ham United, of course, a team that has been so consistent this season that people actually believe that they will be in the top 4 spots. Now, I think with 5 points separating them from Leicester, it's really hard to see them get those 4 spots. I think the 5th one would be a pretty good compensation going to Europa League. It's going to be nice to see West Ham in Europe anyway, wherever competition they will play in. Crystal Palace versus Aston Villa, Tottenham versus Wolverhampton. This is quite a tricky game for Tottenham. They have been walking, to their death almost this season. Sacking Jose Mourinho before the EFL Cup final didn't help exactly. The case for Tottenham. They still, they lost against Leeds United in another embarrassing performance from them. They don't look that good. And again, obviously they will not make European football. I really can't see them playing European football. It definitely is a situation, worth focusing on for Tottenham as of late. They sacked Mourinho. Maybe they were wrong in sacking Mourinho. Obviously, that question is going to be asked till the cows come home. And definitely, nothing is going to be pleasing their fans, since they're not going to be playing European football where they were in the Champions League final just a couple of years ago. West Brom versus Liverpool. Of course, Liverpool are, maybe they still have something in them to get in the Europa League. I mean, I can't believe myself talking about Liverpool, this Liverpool, with the likes of Salah, Mane and Firmino and all of those players, and Van Dijk playing for the Europa League. I mean, the questions that I put in the image, of course, to the part of talking about the Premier League, which is, can Liverpool save themselves a top 4 place? I think there's a pretty big chance that it is a no, considering that, yes, the games that Liverpool have at the moment are easy, but didn't they lose points to West Brom? And West Brom are already relegated, so they won't play. So they will play without any kind of pressure. The pressure is all on Liverpool to win this game, to win and keep their chances into a top 4 spots, and keep their chances of a good finish in the Premier League alive and well. They really want to end the season on a high, because it has been a very, very downward season for them. They started really well, and then the downward spiral took over. The injuries, of course, and all what comes with the injuries, of course. Not just injuries, Jurgen Klopp, I think, losing it pretty much over the course of the season, started blaming referees, schedules, the FA and all of that, and it became a big hot mess for Liverpool. Hopefully for them, they would keep Jurgen Klopp. Surely they will come with a plan next season to rejuvenate the club and to start from the off, I think, build from the off. Europa League football might not hurt Liverpool after all, but again, as far as those players are concerned, I think it's going to be a big downgrade playing in the Europa League. Everton versus Sheffield United, of course. Everton still have a slim hope also in the 5th spot, I would say. I don't think that they can be willing to take a top 4 spot. I think the last thing they would want to is, to lose any game at the moment. The Europa League is going to be decent for Everton, of course, despite their early hopeful ambitions with winning the league or a top 4 finish. I think Europa League is going to be the last resort for them as well. It's still pretty tight between them, Tottenham and Liverpool at 6th, 7th and 8th. Only 2 points, only 3 points separate the 4 from West Ham, Liverpool, Tottenham and Everton. Is going to be very, very interesting and very, very tight top 4 battle, I would say, in the Premier League, as well as the Europa League battle spots in the Premier League too. More interesting, more intense, and have more repercussions, I would say, than the Premier League top 4 battle. The Serie A round 36 kicks off this midweek. Napoli Udinese play on Tuesday, Cagliari Fiorentina on a Wednesday, Atalanta Benevento, Genoa Bologna, and Inter face Roma, Lazio face Parma, Sampdoria face Spezia, Sassuolo face Juventus, and Torino face Milan on Wednesday. Crotone play Hellas Verona on a Thursday. Obviously the big games you have to look for to in this battle are Napoli Udinese, Atalanta Benevento, Lazio Parma, Sassuolo versus Juventus and Torino versus Milan, and I think Sassuolo versus Juventus is, I think, going to be the look of all the eyes, I would say, towards the Serie A, since Juventus seem to be in the worst situation out of the top 4, out of the top 5 in the league at the moment. The last result against AC Milan, losing 3-0, certainly hurts. They are 5th at the moment with 69 points. They're looking more towards Europa League than they're looking towards the Champions League. Yes, they might make a resurgence of late. I mean, I still don't believe that a team where there's Cristiano Ronaldo is facing the threat of playing the Europa League. But that is how bad, unconvincing, average, mediocre, any kind of middling word you would say about Juventus this season. It's been that bad. It's been indeed that bad for Juventus under Andrea Pirlo, who's been under a serious amount of blame for those losses, for the performances, and I think rightfully so, maybe because he didn't define a shape for Juventus early on in the season, and then he doesn't choose the right personnel sometimes, he doesn't play with the right intensity. Juventus, I think, had some consistent trait about them, which is the only consistent thing about them this season, is the fact that they start the games badly, and they start the games pretty slowly, looking for themselves, trying to get into the gears and the motion in the game. And they're not successful in that. They're just not successful in that. And by the time where they reach top gear, mostly the other team would have been into the game and dominating and trying to get chances and scoring. And their defensive record is really, I mean, despite the fact that they are technically the second strongest defense in the Premier League, I really doubt that if you watched Juventus play, you would know that. Or if you watch Juventus, if you watch Juventus this season, I really doubt you can tell me that they are indeed the second strongest defense in the league, because from the looks of it, their defensive performances are really bad. The midfield gives too much ball away. The set piece defending is pretty horrendous. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, I saw the trifecta of Juventus defending. The set pieces being bad. And also you have, again, the choice of personnel is bad. The individual performances are not up to the task. Some players are really performing worse than others. The likes of Chiellini is getting old. He's not that apt anymore to defend. Alexander on the left is not given any more gust to the attack for Juventus. He's not contributing like he used to be. The midfield, I think, in Rabiot and Bentancur, I'm still convinced that this is the best duo. They're not the best duo, obviously, with Bentancur in particular, growing into a role that he's not familiar to as a CDM. I thought maybe Juventus should buy a CDM, maybe should buy a defensive midfielder that knows how to intercept the ball and actually doesn't lose it in the middle of the park. Attacking wise, they're still fine, still firing on all cylinders, but I think they're pretty far from the strongest attacks in the league. I think they're the fifth strongest attack in the league, behind Atalanta, behind Inter, Napoli, and and I think ahead of AC Milan. Obviously, they're the fourth strongest attack in the league, but that is not gonna guarantee them a top 4 spots. They need more consistency than that. And out of all the teams competing for the top 4, obviously it doesn't need a genius to tell you that their run is the hardest, because they still have Sassuolo to play. Next week they will play Inter on the weekend. They will play Inter Milan, and in the last game they will play Bologna away, which is not an easy game as the bookies might suggest it to be. So obviously Juventus need to be all focused in those last 3 games, because any drop points, they will be out of Europe, and I mean it in the earnest way possible. And not just that, their season could get really, really bad, really ugly, because they're threatened to be kicked out of Serie A. According to the federation in Italy, they will be kicked out of the Serie A if they don't withdraw officially from the Super League, because little they're not yet withdrawn from the Super League. They're still in it with Barcelona and Real Madrid. They didn't release an official statement to withdraw with it, and if they fail to do that before registering the Serie A next season, they'll be booted out of that competition. So I don't think Juve will risk doing that, but for some reason, even Andrea Agnelli, as ambitious, as crazy ambitious as he is, I don't think he will risk Juventus being kicked out of Serie A, having another fiasco in the history again. The Calciopoli, I think, is still pretty fresh in the minds of people. They didn't forget that they used to manipulate results and played in Serie B. It's not that far they did that, so people would people could remember that, and Juventus, I don't think Juventus fans would want another fiasco like that to happen to the club. I think they will find a solution. So aside from that, I think the other games for the top 4 battle is pretty easy. You look at Milan against Torino away. I mean, yes, Torino are still sort of embroiled in a relegation battle, although I would say they're pretty safe. In my opinion, they still have a game in hand, so I don't think they will face a lot of troubles. Atalanta host Benevento at home. You expect them to beat them, really. Lazio host Parma, another relegation battle as Parma, unfortunately. You expect them to beat them as well, so maybe they would tighten the space on Juventus. I mean, all the pressure is going to be on Juventus ahead, because only them and Milan play after Napoli, Atalanta and Lazio all played their games. So it will be double pressure on Juventus. If all of them win, it's going to be a must-win situation against Sassuolo, who forced them to a draw at home, and it definitely won't be an easy game away from home. Sassuolo are a good side, and they might be looking to sneak into that last European spot, the qualifying Europa League playoff spot into the season. They would want that, and I think they would deserve it if they get there, because they've been so decent, and they've been, I think, the surprise package, I would say, of the Serie A season. Definitely a top 4 battle to keep an eye on, and one to the edge, I would say, even tighter than the Premier League one, obviously, because I really don't know who's going to be the top 4. Maybe it will be Juventus, Napoli, Milan, Juventus, Napoli, Atalanta, Milan, Napoli, Atalanta. All the signs are pointing towards a potential Europa League, season for Juventus next season. I mean, imagine that. Juve and Liverpool being 2 parts of the Super League, playing the Europa League next season is going to be quite ironic, really, if it happens anyway. Rounding off our midweek preview, and we go to Spain now. The La Liga, of course, title race is still going on. It's the hardest thing going in Europe at the moment, probably aside from Ligue 1 side of race. But obviously, La Liga is drawing to a close, and we still don't know who's going to be winning the league. It's still pretty tight, pretty ambiguous. The ending to the Liga season is going to be great to watch. Obviously, round 36 is played this midweek. Kicks off with Osasuna Cadiz and Elche versus Deportivo Alaves on Tuesday. Of course, these are battles in the bottom of the table, pretty much. For the relegation, it is tight as well there. In relegation, there's probably around 5-6 teams that are battling to escape that spot of relegation, unfortunately. Levante hosts Barcelona as well tonight. It will be a pretty interesting game for them, and after the draw against Atletico Madrid, I think they're demanded with a victory each of the 3 games that they will play this season. You look at their run, they have Levante, of course, this week, then in the weekend they will play Celta Vigo at home. It's not an easy game as well. So in the last game they will go away to Eibar. So after the draw against Atletico Madrid, the league is still pretty much open between the 3 of them, between Atletico, Real Madrid and Barcelona. So it will be always interesting to see how Barcelona are going to be approaching their games. Of course, I thought they had more of a chance early on in the season, a little bit earlier than Atletico Madrid to win it, when Atletico Madrid were shooting themselves in the foot, losing the results and dropping points. Real Madrid are not consistent enough, in my opinion, and the Champions League elimination maybe will be a blessing in disguise for them. Who knows? Maybe they will focus on the last 3 games and focus on them each as if it is a cup game, and get the same mentality that they ended the season with last season in the league, and won the league by dealing with each game on its own as it is a cup game. Sevilla vs Valencia on a Wednesday. Of course, they're out of the league title contention pretty much. They were in there for a couple of weeks, but they will be content of being in the Champions League once again. Celta Vigo versus Getafe on Wednesday as well. Huesca versus Athletic Bilbao. Atletico Madrid hosting Real Sociedad. There's going to be a big game for them, because it's not an easy one against Sociedad, and Atletico Madrid. Probably they'll be looking to get the result, and that's it. They were not looking to perform well. They won't care if they perform well. They will just get the result and get done with it, because that's what they want to. That's what they want from this game. They want the 3 points, and that's about it, really. They've been, in and out of form this season. They had an early run that was great. Everybody thought they would escape and run away with the league. Then they were shooting themselves in the foot. And from 13 points of difference, they went to just 2 points now, and maybe they will lose more gap if they lose against Sociedad and they drop points, certainly with Barcelona playing ahead of them, and maybe if Barcelona win, they will put big pressure ahead on Atletico Madrid. Real Valladolid versus Villarreal on Thursday, Eibar versus Real Betis, and of course the last of the three contenders for the title play against Granada away in Real Madrid, who, that's a tricky travel for them, the Andalusian part of Spain, to face Granada, a team that defeated Barcelona at the Camp Nou, and that result in its own right may be playing a big role in the league and deciding the title where it's going to go. Maybe Granada will play another part again in defeating Real Madrid, obviously with the squad that they have at the moment pretty depleted, and coming from a draw against Sevilla that might prove to be very crucial, I would say, for them, and maybe will be the difference between winning and losing La Liga. Who knows really what could happen as of late. Certainly a title race that is really interesting, really tight, really ambiguous, pretty mysterious to look and to follow till the end of the season. Those three teams, I'm not going to say they're given everything they had. In my opinion, I would say they were almost letting the lead go from them every time they play. I mean, almost like they don't want to win the league because they keep tripping, they keep giving gifts to each other. Atletico Madrid keep losing points as of late. Real Madrid, Barcelona as well. When we expect them to take the lead, they lose points. So it's a pretty interesting situation in the in La Liga at the moment brewing on, and the title race, as interesting and as tight as it is, it looks like not all of them, not any of them is given 100% to win it. It looks like they're just trying to be laid back and do it with the minimum effort possible, which is impossible to do because you need some effort, you need some performances to put in, you need your players to put in some shifts to win you the title, and in particular Atletico Madrid, with their dip in form, which is expected, I would say, considering the early run they had in the season. You expected them to dip in form at a certain point. It was a bad dip in form, to be fair, that let the gap slip from 13 points again to just 2 points ahead of Real Madrid and Barcelona. Real Madrid and Barcelona themselves, who were pretty, average for most of the season. Barcelona improved, I would say, over the course of the season. They had a good run that kept them in the title race. Imagine if they didn't have that run, it would be a different discussion about Barcelona. We've been talking about Barcelona in mid-table, maybe Europa League spots, I don't know. But obviously, they improved so much this season, and I think we got to give credit to Koeman. They won the Copa del Rey, they're still in the title race, they're still involved, and we need to give them credit when credit is due. They did well, they worked well, and they improved their sort of shape and performances over the course of the season, but still dropped enough points to get away from the title. As far as Real Madrid are concerned, getting away from the Champions League, eliminated from the Champions League, they need to focus on all the three games that they have at the moment as if they are, cup games. Deal with each one on its own. That's what gave them the title last season, and that's what maybe will give them the title this season if they do the same. Zinedine Zidane is not short of solutions, is not short of situations, is not short of of ideas, and if he applies those ideas right and maybe stop being angry about refereeing as he did against Sevilla, maybe it will be Real Madrid's season in La Liga. Obviously, we'll always keep eye on the Serie A, on La Liga title race, the Serie A top 4, the Premier League top 4. It's a pretty interesting turnaround in the European football as of late in the season. That's it for me for this episode. Thanks for watching / listening. I was your boy, the HID of the BSB. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. Follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, page Pod on Instagram. An African podcast is returning, of course, this weekend with the quarterfinals imminent, so be ambitious for that. And until next time, I will be seeing you soon.